All right,
All
we're
right.
live.
Good morning, everyone. Today we are joined by Nick Mautone and Director of Communications from the Washington Hospitality Association, Lex Nepomuceno. Good morning, and we'll let you guys go ahead and get started.
All right, well, we're Nick. I want to make sure I pronounce your name right, and me being hypocritical here, look at my name, right? Is it Mautone or Mautone?
Mautone.
Mautone, great.
Thank you.
And I've been reading up about you, and you've done a lot of things in hospitality. And Nick has been in the hospitality business, for 4 decades now, basically?
Yes, it is. It's my 43rd anniversary this year. So,
oh, congratulations! That is a long time. Let alone one of the toughest
Thank you.
industries to be in is hospitality, and you've served it well, and you've done well in that industry. And you've had a chance to work with some just amazing names. You worked with Danny Meyer over in New York. You've opened up some amazing restaurants, and you've consulted, and you've also authored a book. So can you give us just a quick rundown of all these amazing things that you've done, just focusing on the highlights?
Absolutely. Absolutely. Thank you for having me, first and foremost. And, I started my career in 1984. Well, actually, a little bit before that, I was a bar back in, various clubs and bars and whatnot, where I grew up in outside of Mount Vernon, New York, and worked in discos and bars and everything that you name it. My brothers and I opened up our first business in 1984 off Columbus Avenue. It was a pizza and pasta restaurant called American Pie. And to put it in perspective, Union Square Cafe opened the same month. So, we're talking a few decades ago. Moved on from there to work, again, in some different bars. We had that business for about 8 years, worked some different bars and nightclubs thereafter. And found myself at the Gotham Bar and Grill at one point, which I still think pound for pound is one of the greatest restaurants in history. From Gotham to the Hudson River Club, where I learned about the full service catering operations, off-premises catering, sort of the grandeur and size. That was located just across from the World Trade Center in what is the World Financial Center. So it was a unique property, and we developed my love of catering there. From the Hudson River Club, I spent 8 glorious years working with Danny Meyer at Gramercy Tavern, and I was the managing partner at Gramercy Tavern from 1995 to 2003. So a little over 7 years, realistically, 7.5 years. And, started when there was only 2 restaurants, Union Square Cafe and Gramercy. And when I left, we were 6 fine dining restaurants and building there. There off-premises catering and whatnot. And I decided to make the leap to Mautone Enterprises, where I've consulted to various restaurants around the country, worked with beverage companies like Grey Goose Vodka, amongst others, and some startup brands that I still love that work. And a few years ago, 6 years ago, found myself engaged with Tishman Speyer Real Estate, the owners of Rockefeller Center, and the fantastic Rainbow Room, where I was engaged to help the turnaround of the Rainbow Room and its rebirth, and found a home that I truly loved and identified with, and had a lot of problems when I got there. And when I left, it was, one of the 25 highest grossing food service operations in the world, and on its way to the next iteration for the future. And lo and behold, I found myself here in Seattle. So here we are. And I just can't run the Rainbow Room from 3,000 miles away. So
what's it been like just working with hospitality businesses in Washington State, as opposed to some of the big states that you've been involved with? Obviously, New York is and California. What's the biggest difference that you've noticed?
I'm going to say my experience is growing and evolving as I'm new to Washington as a resident, although not new to Washington in general and the Seattle area specifically. I've been here quite a number of times and met with a number of people over the years. But I would say is there's a bit more of the down-to-earthness here in this community, hospitality community, than I might see in New York, Chicago, LA, Miami, and some of the bigger markets that I've experienced. And that's neither pro nor con, just different and wonderful. I liken what the people I've met with here in Seattle to what I would call the burgeoning market of Brooklyn in New York. So it's not the Manhattan where you find Times Square and Rockefeller Center and the Wall Street area. It's more the local community where there's a little bit more innovation going on. I feel that here. What I do love about the operators in the Pacific Northwest is they're not trying to reinvent the wheel of what they do. They're trying to do something specific. There's lots of local engagement, which I'm truly a fan of. I love the local ingredients. I love the passion about the Pacific Northwest and the style of cooking and the style of hospitality. So I find that I'm looking forward to learning even more as I grow in my time here.
Through the past year, obviously with the pandemic, the old adage comes true that what doesn't kills us makes us stronger. Certainly the same can be said for the hospitality industry. What have you noticed with how restaurants and hotels, how they've responded in our region over the past 12 months?
So I'd say, I'd like to give a shout out to everyone who's working right now, because I would say that I've never been more proud of the industry that I adore and that we all work towards than I am right now. What I've seen happen in the last 12 months since the pandemic hit, and the vitality of the industry, the fortitude that our community has put forth, the bonding and togetherness and the alignment of purpose to go beyond where we are, where we had such a seismic shift in both operations, economics, you name it. So to see our industry bond together and work towards the common goal of getting the federal government, the state government, the local governments, and anyone who will listen about how vital and important our community and our business community is to the overall economy has just been something fabulous to behold. Part two of that is watching operators and talking to a variety of operators, whether it's hotels, independent restaurants, chain restaurants. I hate to use the overused term pivot, but so many people have turned their operations on a dime and been able to weather the storm. And I feel sad about the many that were not able to do that. And it's unfortunate. But for those who have survived and have made it to this point, where they can, here in in King County, where I am right now, we're in phase 3, and you have the 50% operations. It's similar in New York. Hopefully it gets better and better. But those people who've survived are going to be all the stronger for it. It's been pretty amazing to behold.
So now we'll get into the meat of the topic here. Sure. Post-pandemic strategies. What would be your advice for businesses, especially in Washington State? We have these different regions, we have different counties. Recently, we've had a few counties roll back from phase 3 to phase 2. Yep. And as you know, you get food orders in, you have staffing. Hospitality businesses are easy to pivot as maybe a software company. Exactly. What would be some of your top strategies in dealing with these uncertain times for our restaurants and hotels?
I'd say there's a whole bunch of strategies, and I might break it up to what I call 8 key maxims that you need to deal with. But overarching, if I might say first and foremost, and this might sound trite given that we're on a webinar with the Washington State Hospitality Association, but first and foremost, I think everyone needs to align with their local association. I've been through quite a number of downturns from Black Friday in 1986 to the dot-com bubble to the 9/11 crash, the 1993 World Trade Center bombings to, of course, post 9/11, which was harrowing for everyone across the country. And at every turn, at every time, I felt that the local restaurant and retail associations that I was affiliated with brought a sense of strength, comfort, and most importantly, information that I can't say enough good things about. So for everyone out there, stay close to the association and your reps within. Get information wherever you can. Be thirsty and hungry for information. That should be the overarching thing. But if I can break down into 8 slots that I would like to call it, I would say leadership and core values. Embrace the new reality. It's not going away. And I'll further define each one of these. Innovation and invention, wellness and health, both for you and your staff, price value elasticity, define and redefine your hospitality over and over, partnership with whoever you can partner with, and finally, and lastly, this will surprise you, technology and automation. I think everyone puts that first, but I think that's actually come last in this grouping. And what I'd like to say most importantly about leadership and core values, which I think is the first, is if you never had a mission statement, if you never had core values, now is the time to do it, plain and simple. If I can quote Colin Powell, who's one of my favorite historical figures, thankfully still alive, one of my favorite historical figures and a great leader in our country, once said that leadership is the art of accomplishing more than the science of management says is possible. And right now, our industry needs to manage the impossible. There's so much out there, so many arrows being slung at us at this point in time, from pandemic to economic to PPE being so hard to find to PPP being hard to get, banks not lending money, landlords not providing relief or help or renegotiation. So there's so many things out there. Your leadership, your core values need to be the guideposts that you work with on a daily basis. And I can't reiterate this enough. I find that businesses that didn't have that inner strength, that inner core to fall back on, are the ones that had the most struggle out of the gate. The ones that did have the core values and lived and died by those core values and led by those core values are the ones that will survive and have survived up to this point. The second phase is second maxim I like is embrace the new reality. And it might be easier said than done, but here's the fact. Things are different now and they're not going to change, right? They're not going back to the way they were 2 years ago. What I feel has happened is the pandemic has forced us into, it's almost like a time warp. We are 5, if not 6, 7 years into the future of where we might have been had there been no pandemic. However, the pandemic has forced on us that the corporate office community has changed their work. And people are going more to hybrid work rules, right? They can work a couple of days in the office, a couple of days not. A lot of companies are no longer going to the office and everyone's working from home because the virtual reality is such that you can work from anywhere in many businesses, but not all. That being said, people are starved for human contact. So there's a great opportunity and window of opportunity for us to get beyond this new reality. However, you have to be facing it head on, embrace the challenges, and try to make order out of disorder by looking at whatever technology you have, being as innovative and inventive as you possibly can. And I think that leads to my next point. Back in 1986 on Black Friday, it was, I thought the world was over. I almost lost my business during that time. I had my pizza and pasta restaurant. I was in business with my brothers. And what actually happened is our lower price point was what people were yearning for. We were able to thrive for the next couple of years. What I saw in the industry at that point in time is the fine dining restaurants started realizing they could make as much, if not more money, by reducing the formality of the restaurant and opening themselves up to a slightly more casual way, and things took off again and we had some immediate growth. The same thing happened in tech bubble, post-tech bubbles in the early 90s, the post 9/11, the industry embraced technology that it had never really jumped into before. So in 2002, 2003, suddenly OpenTable was everywhere and new technologies were coming out to save on labor and help us with just about everything out there. And most importantly, at that time, the industry made that sea change that we've never looked back, where we become a less formal environment. So the need a jacket and tie to go to dining is no longer there. However, it was more casual. So things change. And the same thing is going to happen right now. So we have to be as innovative and inventive as we possibly can. And what does that mean? It might mean a new style of service for restaurants. Does it mean you have less waiters on and more iPads where guests can order themselves and the server, in essence, is a concierge leading you through the operation, maybe a commissioned salesperson as opposed to a true server? So there's different methods of how do you reduce labor in the wake of this pandemic and economic destruction that we're experiencing? And how do you innovate and invent a new method, right? So many people have done that by, fine dining restaurants flipping to home meal replacement, quick service restaurants that never delivered before now delivering, and everything in between. So right now is, if you can dream it, try to attempt it. And most importantly, make a goal, make a plan to achieve that goal. And then if the plan doesn't work, change the plan, but not the goal. Your goal is survival. Your goal is something new and innovative to make your business work in its own particular way. Maintain that goal, and maintain that goal with the integrity and empathy that you can. But if the plan isn't working, feel free to change the plan, but don't change the goal. And I might give a shout out to one of my favorite restaurants in the world, based here in Seattle, is Canada. I've watched as they've been, could be a dozen times, it seems like, from burger joint to school to this to that. And they're there, and they're surviving and thriving. And numerous other businesses have done that as well. And I think that's the goal we need to have. The other thing I need to bring up and say to how to manage this through this pandemic and recover is what I will call health and wellness. And I don't necessarily mean from the pandemic mindset of how you clean your hands and how you clean your station. I want to say, first and foremost, you need to maintain your health and the health of your staff, your wellness and the wellness of the staff. Take care of each other to the best of your possible ability, because it's, think of it like the airplane, right? When you get the instructions and you're flying on the airplane, and if the oxygen was going to drop down, what do they say? Put the mask on you first before you help your kid. If you're not healthy and able to manage through this, you're not going to be able to lead the team to the best of your abilities. So take care of yourself, take care of your staff, and do everything you possibly can. And with that, I would also bring in the health to the local community is just as important. What's good for your local community is good for you. So however you can embed yourself in the community, I would say is part of the holistic health and wellness of your business as well. Number 5, I'd say price value elasticity. And I use that as opposed to, cutting costs or raising prices. Elastic means do what you need to do to manage the business for this day, for this week, for this time frame. I think consumers right now are very flexible in their mindset and more than willing to deal with a price hike as long as all the other parts of the value proposition are still there. For example, if I raise the prices on my dishes, but the service is still bright, happy, empathetic, cheery, life will be good. If I price it and bring the quality down and the service is the guests aren't coming back, right? There's a short window to keep them happy. So I think that price value elasticity makes it ever more important. So within that, there might be some other opportunities for the industry or for an independent restaurant or non-chain restaurant to think out of the box. And what can I do? Is there a subscription you can do? Is there outside of the normal discounting? What is the ad you can make on any guest order, whether it's a 2-course menu that's affordable for them, but yet gets you to move product? Is there some innovative way that you can package your menu in such a way that gives the guest the value proposition, allows you to have the appropriate revenue coming in that covers your costs and exceeds your costs in such a way that you can actually make at least a slim profit on every dish, because we know it's tough right now. I would also say define and redefine your hospitality. It's never more important right now than the experience that the guest is looking for. Right now, our industry is going through a period of love throughout the nation, right? The guests are coming in and they know we're a small business. They know you're had a hard time, and they're willing to overlook any and all mistakes that occur. But I do believe there's a very, very short window where this will occur. I think sooner or later, the guests will look at those mistakes and say, hey, I've had a rough time too, right? And they can't forgive that. So be very, very mindful of 2 things. You have the short window where the guest will be forgiving of mistakes and errors and changes and pivots and everything else that you're going through. But you need to be empathetic to what they've gone through, right? Everyone has dealt with this pandemic at the same way. Some more affluent than others. Others have struggled and are finally out and enjoying themselves. So it's really a great time to be empathetic to your guests and to redefine the experience in such a way that you are showing how great you are and managing the guest experience and the guest journey from the front door to the back end in a new and innovative way. But there's a short window to redefine that experience where the guest will be forgiving. I'd also look at partnerships, and I think a lot of people have done this well, but there's different ways to look at it. If I was a retail environment, I could bring in food from an independent restaurant and sell it, and I would have a new product that's good for the community. It's harder when you are a restaurant with a specific menu, a specific concept, but there's got to be different ways that you can play around. So, for example, if your business can deal with purchasing desserts where you might have made them from scratch before, and you can get them from a local bakery that would provide that bakery with a good source of funding because you're buying the desserts, you can then co-market that you're buying those desserts from this particular bakery just for you. The guest gets a great experience. The local bakery, e.g. the local community, gets the benefit. You get the cost savings by not having to bake that. Again, that's a simple, minor example, but any partnership you can do, any partnership you can make will help the innovation and help spark your business and drive revenue. And I would say last of the maxims, I don't want to take too much of our time, but last of the maxims that I would really focus on is technology and automation. And everyone looks at me that technology is the savior. Technology is going to be the way to go. And I've heard this ad nauseum, if I might say. And having gone from the NCR calculator days, all right, so pre-computer, pre-computerized cash register, pre-point of sale system, pre-open table, to now where everyone is talking technology at every source point, I can say one thing: technology doesn't make you better. It makes it easier for what you do to do well, right? So it only makes it easier. If you're a great chef, you're going to be a great chef with or without technology. If you are a great sommelier, you're a great sommelier with or without technology. Technology and automation will only make it easier for you to get the job done that you really should be doing. In my experience, too much of a focus on technology will take you away from the hospitality that you need to really get out there. And within that, I throw out an old school mantra of guerrilla marketing. I think right now, that touch point, owning the guest, it's never been more important than to touch the guest in a one-on-one mindset and really get out there. Write a handwritten note, not just an email. Drop a note in the to-go bag thanking the guest. Put in a bag of cookies in the to-go bag that someone didn't order because you just want to feel good about it. Anything you can do that can get out into the local market, I think, is important. That type of innovation is going to get us beyond this. And don't be afraid to ask your guests and your local community for their help. Let's be realistic. The squeaky wheel gets the grease. So if you're out there saying, we want your business, the business will come. If you're waiting for the business to come, it's just not going to happen because people are going to come where they are being actually asked to join. Come on in, help us. We need your help. We want your business. Make it an inducement for people to come in. So that form of guerrilla marketing, that down and dirty marketing, above and beyond everything else you're doing with PR, social media, and the like, whatever digital marketing out there is fantastic. But there's nothing like that one-to-one or one-to-many personal touch that you can do through the handwritten note, the personalized email, as opposed to the automated survey. Anything and everything like that will help you out.
Those are great suggestions and great advice, Nick. One of the things that I know a lot of our members are facing is people. There's a shortage of people.
Yes.
A lot of folks, the pandemic has sidelined a lot of folks, and the workforce has shifted to other industries that weren't so shut down during this time because they have to pay the bills. How does a business that they're ready to get back on their feet. They're ready to even expand and start opening up to 50% and more. How do they deal with the shortage of people issue?
So I think that is probably one of the single most important questions anyone can face right now. And there is no one great answer for that. That's the tough part, because it's such an economic upheaval for the frontline hospitality workers that we know and love and that we're looking for, that there's no one simple way to get around it. The one thought I have is to start at the top and assess every process that you possibly can, right? Look at every process in the restaurant, use what I like to call sabermetrics, right? The money ball of baseball, and figure out where can you cut out a server, a back waiter. Not cut out, let me rephrase that. Where can you do without the server or back waiter or line cook or whatever it is that you might have had a year ago, a year and a half ago, but don't have now? And that's where the automation may come in. That's where the redefining of a menu may come in such a way that you are prepping more and assembling more during the shift, as opposed to cooking a la minute. A broad stroke answer for clearly different restaurants and different businesses. For me, I think it's more in the front of the house. I think it's harder to complete out of the gate for a restaurant that's been closed for a year to suddenly automate their kitchen and have robots doing everything, right? But in the front of the house, you can do something where you can have an iPad menu. The guest can place the order that links to the point of sale system, and a limited number of servers are acting more as concierges and commissioned salespeople, if you will, as opposed to running the food, taking the order, resending it, so on and so forth. So I think it's a hard one right now. Second, I would say looking at recruitment is go through every avenue possible, whether it's online sources like Harry.com or Bamboo or whatever's out there. There's innumerable websites right now to source for people. And don't forget an ad in the local paper that might just work where the technology isn't at this point in time. So look as far and wide as you possibly can.
Now, where does technology can take our businesses multiple ways? Where does one strike a balance between technology and that personal touch point? Because as you know, a lot of people have been locked up. When they go to a restaurant, that is one of the reasons why they want to go there, is they want to talk to the bartender, they want to meet the owner, talk to the wait staff, meet the chef. Big reasons why people want to get out of the house and have a nice dinner with their family.
That's right. It's such a good point. And it's such a good issue to be facing right now, because despite all the innovations in technology over the last 20 years, I've maintained that there is nothing more important than the personal touch in every aspect of what I call the guest journey, from the minute they place the reservation to the minute they walk in the door to the minute they get served to the minute they leave, and so on down the line. And those 10 different touch points. What I would suggest is this: I'm a fan of having someone at the door above and beyond anything else, right? If someone is greeted with a smile the minute they walk into your establishment, again, there's different establishments: quick service, fast food, fine dining, so on. So this is not a one shoe fits all mindset. But I've walked into a lot of businesses recently, a lot of restaurants recently, where there's no one at the front door and you're standing there for a few minutes waiting for someone to greet you. It is what it is. I'm okay with that because I understand and empathetic to where the situation is, and most guests are. However, I almost would rather have had someone greet me immediately, show me the iPad or whatever digital QSR code they're going to be using for the menu, explain it to me right then and there, get me seated, and then I'm okay if I'm left alone to do the ordering like I did in the airport a few months ago, right? Where you're doing it on the iPad and it suddenly shows up. But at some point, most importantly, it's that check back. Even if you're doing an automated ordering system, someone needs to check in within that 2 minutes or 2-bite rule, so that they know that, so that the house knows that your food is okay, everything is to your liking, you don't have a problem, and most importantly, you're just checking in with the guest with a smile. So there is a balance, but there's nothing, absolutely nothing, no technology is going to overtake the personal touch for bringing guests back.
Great. Lisa, do we have any questions in the queue?
No, not today.
All right. Well, Nick, we have a few minutes left. What parting words and sage advice can you give the hospitality industry in Washington State in the last few minutes here?
Well, I'm going to circle back on stay close to your local association and local reps, because they're the source of information that benefits everybody, and there seems to be on top of everything that you possibly can. So, and I mean that as sincerely as possible. Second, stay true to yourself. I find that with all the pivoting going on and all the stress going on, people are kind of forgetting who they are, rightfully so. I get it. The stress of this moment is so difficult that it's something most of us have never experienced before. But dig down deep, stay true to yourself, stay true to your roots, and manage from within your core values. And I really believe that we can get through beyond this. It's not going to bring money in your pocket automatically, but it will help you overcome the stress. And if you overcome the stress, it helps you manage the business that much more effectively.
Great. Now, I know that you've written a book, Raising the Bar. Are you working on another book right now? Or
Yes, Raising the Bar was my first book in 2005, and that was Cocktails and Home Entertaining. I've had a couple of spin-offs of that in the intervening years. I'm working on Life Behind Bars, my 40-year plus journey in the hospitality industry. So it's lessons and learnings on my journey. I'm in the process of writing that right now, and I'm hopeful that it'll be published, at some point early next year. But we'll keep our fingers crossed on that. But one way or another, it'll come out next year, whether it's self-published or published by my current publisher.
Well, definitely let us know when that's out, so we can have you on again and talk about that. And thank you so much for joining us today, Nick. And hopefully we could have you again on sometime in the near future. If people wanted to learn more about you or contact you, how would they do that?
You can feel free to email me at nick@mautone-enterprises.com. I'm generally very good about getting right back to people, and I'm not without my errors in that, but I will get back to every email that comes my way.
Wonderful. Well, thank you again, Nick. And
thank you, Lex.
And until next time, thank you all for joining us today. And we look forward to seeing you again. Thank you.
Thank you. Take care.